Okay, 4 bales loaded up. This is going to a person that used to buy small squares, but I run out of small squares. I only sell them in the summer for the most part. Keep a few with a couple other guys I team up with, and we deliver to some people all winter long, some friends of mine that want to store them. And this is going to be hand fed inside a barn. So this will be the equivalent of selling 40 small squares. We're going to have 4 loads today going out to different people that get weekly deliveries. Yeah, all right. So yeah, some of these people get hay like once a week, once a month, and it took a long time to get these customers going. And you know, the beauty of doing the round bales is, you know, for obvious reasons. We all know why we bale round bales is to increase baling capacity, reduce labor. And however, you know, I feel sorry for people who don't have a good round bale clients. We should never be selling round bales for as cheap hay. Price per pound, half the price is what it is. Price per pound on a small square. So you got to figure out how to add value to them. And I started a couple years ago just saying to people, hey, okay, round bale or square bales might sell you some round bales. The first thing that comes up is, well, I don't have any way to feed round bales. Or I fed round bales before and it was so much waste. And I say, well, all you can do, you know, you can roll them in the barn aisle, tip them up on that, cut the twine, and hand feed them. You know, grab off layers like giant flakes of hay and feed them, just like you do square bales. There's no reason you can't do that. And not everybody bites on it, but 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10 of your customers bites on that. Boom, there you go. You got then you've got a round bale customer. And lo and behold, what I have learned is that a lot of people would rather roll a round bale around the barn, unrolling it, than to go up in the hayloft, throw down square bales, and carry square bales down the line. So it's not as bad as what a lot of them have thought. Now it'll be like summertime, they'll say, I got square bales. No, you know what? That's okay. Just keep bringing me the round bales. Because that was a surprise to me, is how many people, you know, it just wasn't a temporary thing. They were like, no, just keep bringing me the round bales. And then the other thing I have, the other component is I have a bunch of, you know, backyard horse owners. I have 1 or 2, 3 horses, maybe a couple miniature donkeys in the backyard. And no hay storage. You know, the modern barns are just a small gable roof pole barn, no hay loft. It costs a lot of money to build a hay loft. And lo and behold, they just want round bales. And they will, you know, a lot of them have those hay huts, which are like those covered round bale feeders. And I start feeding them. They get weekly deliveries, or once a month I bring them some hay. And they can roll the round bales. Some of these people don't even have tractors, or they have a small trailer. So that's another thing, is what brings up added value to these round bales is bale the smallest bale as you can. Almost all of us, when you're selling horse customers, are not selling by the ton, we're selling by the bale. It is almost impossible to make as much money on a 4x5 as you do a 4x4 or smaller bale. And when I say smaller, I'm going to start making 4x3.5 next year for a certain sect of people. And I think they're going to sell like hotcakes. And so add value by making small bales. I was lucky. The first baler I bought was a 4x4 bale. And lucky me, that was all I could afford. It was a 4x4. And so I didn't have to worry about having that 4x5 baler and resisting the urge to make bigger bales to get done sooner. You know, less time wrapping, less bales to move, haul more hay at once with a 4x5. So I went for years with a 4x4. reduce the price per bale somewhat if you could factor in what are your, I'm sliding a little bit here, we're slippery. If you can reduce the price per bale and match it to what the cost of production are per bale versus a square bale on a per ton basis, because maybe the baling costs are much cheaper because of handling and all that. However, I can tell you that is rarely the case. You usually don't assume that you're going to make hay cheaper because you run round baling. The cost of moving equipment around, the motor tractors and things like that, to go move a bale and handle it, kind of equal out. As a matter of fact, in the 90s, I did a lot of mathematics on figuring out cost of production, and I held off getting a round baler for years because I couldn't justify the cost of having motor tractors or more equipment to move the round bales. And it was not going to be, it worked out that it was about even, and in some cases it was almost more expensive to get round bales because of you had to move them and you have to store them. Here's a huge mistake people make. They think, oh, I can leave them outside. Easily 50% of your hay is wasted. Do not do it if you're not going to properly cover them. If you're not going to go through, you know, you see there all the work I did on untarping them and fighting with tarps and this and that. It pays off. A lot of people, if you're going to be too lazy to do it and you're going to properly store them, well, don't do it. Because say it costs you, easily it costs you $120 to $130 a ton to make it. Doubt anybody really, unless you just got volunteer hay that you're baling for free. Let's just say it costs you $120. You waste half your hay because you left it outside uncovered. There you go, $240 a ton. And I get arguments with people all the time on that. Friends of mine. And of course this year they're kind of agreeing with me because I showed them, you know, here you go, here's all the waste. And if you don't tarp them correctly, tarping them incorrectly is just as bad as just leaving them outside uncovered. So you got to weigh that in too. So there's a science to it, there's a technique to it, and there's a little bit of work to it. But at the end of the day, I'm out here having customers I wouldn't have at all because they pay attention to the detail. I'm selling these round bales, I'm making more money than doing small squares with them. All right, rolled these bales here, and that's how they could be fed this way, or you just cut the twine and peel sheets off them, or you can put them in the barn aisle like this and roll them down the barn aisle and hand feed them. These guys have been doing this at this place for a few years now. Another thing that I would like to mention in regards to pricing your hay and adding value to it on these round bales too is just pricing your hay in general in order to add value to a small square or a round bale is try to stick together with maybe some other hay producers in your area. You know, I got some other farmers, like in our area, it's not like we got a pact or anything, but a lot of us tend to be on the same or similar page on our hay pricing. I mean, we don't have that many people giving hay away. Now, and that's the problem, if you got somebody right next door to you giving the hay away, they're a weekend warrior or something, and they're pricing hay to get rid of it rather than pricing it to make money, that's devastating for you. And no matter what you do, you might have those customers switching to those people. Number one, that's a really low quality customer. Like I'm going to do a video on on customer vetting, you know, or like customer scouting. Like you put hay advertising on, like, say, Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, and you what it's worth. Because the reason they're doing it is because most people are not putting pencil to paper and actually figure out how much does it cost for you to make a bale of hay. I can tell you what it costs me to make a square bale, what it costs me to make a 4x4 round bale, a 4x5 round bale. And so I do it out of necessity. I have nothing else to fall back on. No off-farm job, no corn, no soybeans, whatever. So that part's important. And if you're in the middle of the pack or you're the cheapest guy around, gallon around, that you're doing a disservice to yourself and your neighbors. So easier said than done, but you know, and it helps if you're in a strong hay market too. In an area obviously with a strong hay market. But I get it. I get all the trials and tribulations with trying to get a fair dollar for your hay. Because trust me, I've been there. Okay, last delivery of the night. 2 are going to one spot. I'll climb up there, flip them off. Then 4 are going to another person's place.